Tonight, we're going deeper than the headlines, deeper than the surface level coverage, deeper than the noise cycle. Because while the world is locked onto Gaza, the real danger point, the real ignition point, is sitting 80 miles to the north along the Israel-Lebanon border. And if you've been watching the last 14 days, you already know something is shifting. Let's start with the facts, not opinions, not speculation, the documented, verified facts. Number one, the most intense cross-border fire since 2006. According to IDF operational releases, UNIFIL monitoring reports, or UNIFIL, Lebanese media logs, OSINT geolocation threads, satellite IR strike signatures, the last 2 weeks have seen the highest number of Hezbollah-Israeli engagements since 2006 Lebanon war. This includes over 50 Hezbollah rockets in a single 24-hour period, explosive drones crossing into Israel at altitudes meant to evade the Iron Dome, anti-tank guided missiles, or ATGMs, launched at IDF positions, Israeli counterstrikes hitting deep into southern Lebanon further than before, strikes on Hezbollah UAV launch teams, artillery exchanges across 20-plus locations simultaneously. This is no longer border skirmishing. This is shaping fire, the kind of pattern militaries use before opening a broader offensive. Number two, the U.S. is quietly preparing for something bigger. Here's where it gets serious. Multiple outlets, Axios, Politico, Haaretz, The Times of Israel, plus DoD reporters embedded with CENTCOM officials confirmed the following. The U.S. has warned allies that January may see a major escalation if Hezbollah opens a second front. This warning didn't come from politicians. It came from intelligence analysts tracking Hezbollah movement, SIGINT streams showing increased encrypted traffic, ISR flights over Lebanon spotting troop repositioning, heat maps showing militia mobilization patterns, U.S. Embassy emergency posture shifts. The U.S. is not guessing. They're seeing indicators. The same indicators we saw before 2006 Lebanon war, before 2019 Israel-Iran shadow conflict, 2021 Gaza escalation, and 2023 to 24 Gaza offensive. And here's the part most Americans don't realize. The U.S. has already moved additional assets into the Mediterranean. Not for show, not for deterrence, but for rapid response capability. This includes 2 destroyers repositioned closer to the northern front, electronic warfare aircraft flying persistent loops, enhanced air defense systems placed inside Israel, maritime surveillance to track potential Iranian arms routes, special operations advisors working with Israeli Northern Command. These movements match pre-conflict posture, not routine rotation. Number 3, Hezbollah is bigger than Hamas, and that changes everything. Most media oversimplifies this conflict. But if you understand military dynamics, you know Hamas is a localized paramilitary organization. Hezbollah is a regional military actor with state-level capability. Here's what Hezbollah brings to the table. 150,000 plus rockets. This is the IDF estimate. Precision-guided munitions capable of striking deep into Israel. Battle-hardened fighters with experience in Syria. Iranian training, funding, and intelligence. Aerial assets including fixed-wing drones, cyber capability, and a unified command network. This is not a militia. It is Iran's most powerful foreign arm built for exactly one purpose: to open a northern front if Israel becomes locked into a major conflict. And the indicators suggest Hezbollah is now moving along the early stages of its historic escalation ladder. So let's break this into stages. Stage 0. Messaging, threats, and symbolic fire. Stage 1, tactical harassment. This is already happening. Stage 2, targeted strikes on IDF assets. This is also happening. Stage 3, escalating anti-tank guided munitions and UAV attacks. This is also happening. Stage 4, strikes on civilian or deep Israeli targets. Not yet, but perhaps. Stage 5, a full front opens up. Right now, we are between Stage 2 and Stage 3, the unstable middle. Number 4, the intelligence pattern is alarming. Intelligence communities watch for 5 specific indicators before a major Hezbollah escalation. Number 1, fighter redeployments from Syria. Multiple OSINT accounts confirmed Hezbollah convoys leaving Qaysar and Al-Kalamoun, redeploying toward the Lebanon border. That has not happened since 2019. Cryptid chatter spikes were detected by Western SIGINT around December 10 to the 19th. When encrypted traffic increases abruptly, it often means new orders, new timelines, new operational planning. Precision rocket unit movement, satellite passes from December 14th to the 20th, showed repositioning of Hezbollah's elite Radwan units. These are the same units Israel fears most. Their documented mission: cross into Israel and seize towns in the north during wartime. Number 4. Iran's leadership shifted tone from support to activation language, including statements that all fronts will move if Gaza continues. This is not normal rhetoric. It is pre-escalation signaling. Number 5. UNIFIL warning. When UNIFIL warns of an unprecedented escalation, that's not press language. That's coded messaging from the international security community. All 5 indicators are active. That hasn't happened in 17 years. Intel sources such as Axios, NBC, Haaretz, Politico all report the same thing. U.S. officials believe Hezbollah may be preparing for a decision point in January. Why? Because weather improves, Israeli operations in Gaza shift, Iranian leadership faces internal pressure, Hezbollah casualties have passed 100, a red line in their minds. IDF Northern Command is stretched, diplomatic pressure hits peak frustration in mid-January. January is historically a month of Middle Eastern inflection points. In 91, the Gulf War. In 06, Hezbollah buildup. 09, Gaza War. In 2020, Qasem Soleimani drone strike. In 24, now this. When multiple players face converging incentives, escalation becomes more likely. Not guaranteed, but more likely. Number 6, the bottom line. Most people think the war is in Gaza. Professionals know the real war, the one that decides the fate of the Middle East, is waiting on the Lebanon border. And right now that front is becoming more active, more volatile, and more strategically important every single day. January could be the most unstable month yet. Now we're going to get into the next section, the escalation logic, why Hezbollah might move, why Israel may respond, and why the U.S. cannot stay neutral. To understand what January may look like, we have to examine something most people never see: the escalation logic. Wars don't erupt out of thin air. They follow incentives, pressure, fears, and timelines. And right now, those timelines are tightening for every actor involved. Let's break down what each major player is facing and why the situation is far more volatile than the average news consumer realizes. Hezbollah is not Hamas, and it does not act out of desperation. It acts out of strategic calculation, based on Iranian geopolitical needs, Lebanese internal politics, deterrence against Israel, maintaining dominance over all rival factions, preserving its role as Iran's northern arm. For months, Hezbollah has been able to claim symbolic resistance without risking a full-scale war. But something has shifted. Hezbollah's casualties have passed a red line. As of late December, 120 plus Hezbollah fighters have been killed. This is IDF count. Lebanese outlets claim closer to around 90. Several of these casualties include elite Radwan commanders, not just rank-and-file fighters. Historically, Hezbollah tolerates low-intensity losses. But once losses pass 100, public pressure shifts. And when public pressure shifts, Hezbollah leadership must respond to maintain credibility. Iran needs Hezbollah to demonstrate strength. What most Americans don't realize is this: Iran uses Hezbollah to project power without direct confrontation. After the Soleimani assassination in 2020, the October 7th fallout in 2023, Israel striking Iranian assets in Syria, U.S. forces strengthening in the Red Sea, internal Iranian political dissatisfaction, Iran's regional strategy requires showing strength but not inviting a direct war with the U.S. Hezbollah is the perfect pressure valve. If Gaza continues, Iran cannot afford for Hezbollah to appear passive. Hezbollah claims it must map to Gaza's fate. Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah said it plainly: the front in the north moves according to Gaza. Translation: if Gaza intensifies, Lebanon intensifies. That statement alone sets the conditions for January escalation. Israel's strategic positioning is becoming unsustainable. Israel cannot tolerate a two-front war indefinitely. But Israel also cannot tolerate a Hezbollah threat locked in stasis forever. 80,000 Israelis have been displaced from the north. Entire communities, Metula, Kiryat, Shemona, Shutula, Margaliot, are all still empty. Israel's government has quietly said something important. These people cannot return unless Hezbollah is pushed back. That means a diplomatic solution must neutralize Hezbollah's border presence, or a military operation will be required. If diplomacy fails by January, Israel faces a choice. Let the north remain unviable, or open a northern campaign. IDF intelligence is warning of a northern surprise. IDF announcements are usually sanitized, so when they say we are preparing for a major northern scenario, that is deliberate messaging. Israel has moved armored brigades toward the north, 350 plus artillery systems, additional Iron Dome and David Sling batteries, special forces units trained specifically for Radwan contingencies. These are not defensive moves only, they are pre-offensive positioning. If Hezbollah escalates to stage 4, which is deep strikes into Israel, stage 5, a full IDF operation, becomes almost unavoidable. The US is quietly bracing for the worst case scenario. And here's something the American public has not been told. CENTCOM and EUCOM, which is European Command, have expanded contingency planning. Axios, Politico, and NBC confirmed through officials that the US expects a moderate to high likelihood of escalation in January. This is why the US has increased its Eastern Mediterranean naval presence, expanded radar coverage, rotated fighter squadrons, strengthened the air defense network inside Israel, established rapid supply corridors. These moves match U.S. posture from 2014 ISIS rise, 2019 Iran tanker attacks, and the 2020 Soleimani assassination aftermath. Not routine activity, pre-crisis posture. Britain, France, and Germany are quietly doing the same. This part has been underreported. Britain has increased RAF surveillance flights. France has reinforced its embassy and warned citizens. Germany issued a rare do not travel to Lebanon advisory. Canada began drafting citizen evacuation plans. When multiple Western nations reposition assets simultaneously, that usually means they've seen intelligence that hasn't gone public. The U.S. cannot stay out of a northern war. If Hezbollah escalates, the U.S. is drawn in by default because Israel is a primary ally. Hezbollah is designated as a terrorist organization. Iran's involvement makes it a regional conflict. U.S. ships in the Med would instantly become targets. Global shipping would collapse again if the conflict expands. This is why the White House has been urging Qatar, pressuring France, negotiating with Egypt, engaging Turkey, back-channeling with Lebanon. We're trying to prevent the nightmare scenario. But the risk is real, and it's rising. January is the convergence point. Let's zoom in on why January specifically matters. Weather improves for military operations. Clearer skies, better drones, better surveillance, better precision strikes, easier troop movement. January to March is historically when Middle Eastern wars intensify. Gaza operations will reach a transition phase. Israeli forces will shift from full invasion to intensive clearing ops to targeted operations. Whenever Israel transitions military phases, adversaries test boundaries. Hezbollah is likely to see the transition as a window. Iran faces pressure to respond without war. Iran's calculus is simple. Too little response, they look weak. Too much response, direct war with the US. So they use proxy escalation. Hezbollah as the middle option. Diplomacy will likely fail. France, Qatar, and the United States have pressured Hezbollah to withdraw forces north of the Litani River. Hezbollah has refused. If negotiations collapse in early January, escalation becomes more probable. So the bottom line is we are not watching border clashes anymore. We are watching pre-war indicators ticking upward simultaneously. Troop repositioning, intelligence spikes, international warnings, political pressure, strategic incentives aligning. This is the closest the Middle East has been to regional war in over a decade. And unless something dramatic shifts, January may be the breaking point. What we're going to cover next is what happens if the second front opens, regional war, global shockwaves, and what Americans must pay attention to next. If Hezbollah opens a second front, even partially, the Middle East won't heat up. It will change shape, and the ripple effects will reach America faster than most people realize. So let's walk through the 4 major layers of impact: military, regional, global, and domestic. Because once you see how these pieces lock together, you'll understand why January is being watched so closely by every intelligence agency on Earth. Number 1, the military layer: how a northern war actually unfolds. Most people imagine a war between Israel and Hezbollah as more rockets or more airstrikes. That is outdated thinking. A real second front conflict would look radically different. Hezbollah opens with saturation fire. Not 20 rockets, not 200. Thousands, in waves. Their goal is to overwhelm Israel's multi-layer missile defenses, such as the Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow 3. Hezbollah is estimated to have 150,000 plus rockets and missiles, precision-guided missiles capable of hitting infrastructure, anti-ship cruise missiles, armed drones tailored for energy targets. Israel can handle Gaza. Israel cannot handle the West Bank. Israel cannot absorb massive precision fire from the north indefinitely. Israel responds with deep strikes inside Lebanon. Israelis' first moves won't be symbolic. They will target Radwan force leadership, missile launch warehouses, underground command networks, Hezbollah's comms infrastructure, border tunnel systems. This will not look like 2006. Israel has spent 17 years preparing for this exact scenario. Hezbollah attempts a ground infiltration. This is the part no one is prepared for. Hezbollah's Radwan units have trained for years to breach the Israeli border, capture border towns, take hostages, post immediate footage for psychological warfare. Even if one unit crosses, the political explosion inside Israel will make the Gaza response look restrained. The U.S. becomes involved within 72 hours. Not with ground troops, but with naval missile interception, radar tracking, intel coordination, protecting U.S. embassies, evacuating citizens, potentially striking Hezbollah anti-ship launch sites. Once Hezbollah fires on U.S. assets intentionally or accidentally, escalation becomes automatic. This is precisely why the Pentagon is positioning destroyers along the Mediterranean. A northern war drags America in whether we want it or not. The regional layer: Iran, Syria, Turkey, Gulf states, the chessboard moves all at once. A Hezbollah-Israeli war is not isolated. It triggers regional chain reactions. Iran immediately activates militias in Iran, Syria, and Yemen. Iran's leadership has already signaled through IRGC channels: any attack on Hezbollah is an attack on the axis. That includes Kataib, Hezbollah, which is Iraq, Harakat al-Nujaba, Iraq, Liwa al-Quds, Syria, Houthis, Yemen. Expect drone swarms at U.S. bases, rocket attacks on the Tanf and Erbil, maritime strikes in the Red Sea, cyber operations on Western infrastructure. Iran won't enter the war directly. They'll activate every proxy at once. Syria becomes the overflow battlefield. Israel will strike Iranian weapon convoys moving through Syria. Iran will attempt to move reinforcements through Damascus to Lebanon. That corridor becomes the invisible battlefield between the real battlefields. Turkey and Qatar try to control the diplomacy. Two nations who want to appear powerful without firing a shot. Turkey will push for ceasefire negotiations. Qatar will act as the bridge between Iran and the West. But both know if diplomacy fails, the whole region shifts towards instability that affects their economies. Gulf states brace for oil market shock. Saudi Arabia and the UAE will try to stay out visibly, but behind closed doors they will coordinate with the U.S. for airspace protection, tanker route adjustments, critical infrastructure defense. Because if Hezbollah hits Israeli gas rigs or Iran disrupts Hormuz, oil hits $150 a barrel overnight. The global layer: markets, energy, shipping, and U.S.-China competition. Most Americans think a Middle East war stays in the Middle East. It doesn't. It hits your wallet, your grocery bill, your security, and your global standing. Energy markets react within minutes. Israelis' offshore gas fields supply, domestic energy, exports to Egypt, LNG networks tied to Europe. If Hezbollah hits those rigs, something they have publicly threatened, Europe loses a stabilizing energy source. This creates gas price spikes, inflation rebounds, market volatility, increased dependency on U.S. LNG. A single successful strike could move global markets instantly. Shipping routes become risk zones again. The Red Sea crisis already pushed Maersk, MSC, and Hapag-Lloyd to reroute. I spoke about this in my short-form content. A northern war adds Mediterranean naval tensions, increased insurance rates, rerouting of tankers, 10 to 14-day delays, price increases across global logistics. Global costs rise, supply chains tighten, inflation rebounds worldwide. China steps in where the U.S. steps back. Beijing will not waste this moment. China will position itself as a neutral mediator, increase diplomatic ties with Gulf states, use U.S. distraction to expand influence in Asia-Pacific. Every time the Middle East flares, China moves one square forward in the global power game. Russia exploits chaos to tighten its grip on Ukraine. Moscow benefits from U.S. distraction. A northern war means fewer American ISR alert, fewer American ISR assets focused on Russia, delayed weapons shipments, diverted diplomatic attention. The Kremlin loves Middle East chaos. It's a geopolitical smokescreen. The domestic layer, what this means for America. This is the part politicians will not talk about. A second front war affects U.S. military deployments, oil prices, inflation, political divisions, national security posture, public opinion on foreign engagement. U.S. troops overseas become higher value targets. ISIS-K already proved they're willing to strike American bases when political attention is elsewhere. A northern war creates even more distractions, and extremists notice. Gas prices rise again, and fast. Americans don't connect Middle East escalation to pump prices until they feel it. Hydrocarbons are global. Conflict equals uncertainty. Uncertainty equals price spikes. Price spikes equal inflation rebounds. 2025 becomes a national security election. If escalation continues into spring, foreign policy becomes a top-tier U.S. election issue. Not by choice, by necessity. The U.S. will have to choose a path. Isolation, engagement, containment, deterrence. There is no longer a neutral option. When Hezbollah moves, the region moves. When the region moves, America moves, whether we want to or not. If this breakdown helped you see the full picture, not the headlines, not the sound bites, but the actual escalation ladder we are climbing right now, don't stop here. This channel is where I go deeper, where I connect the dots, where I analyze the patterns other people miss. But the daily situational awareness, the rapid updates, the short form intel, that's all happening over on my TikTok. Follow TikTok, The Watchman98, for daily breakdowns, real-time updates, situational clarity. And if you want to go even deeper, the mindset, the discipline, the geopolitics, the mission. My new podcast is officially live, The Watchman98, now on Spotify. Unfiltered, long form, built for people who take responsibility seriously and want to understand the world we're living in now. As always, stay aware, stay disciplined, and stand watch.